Hello, hello, and welcome back to another LEGO set review on Generic Brick Pun, the name that I'm apparently still using because I haven't found anything better. Today we're talking about set 10302, and that's weird. I can't find a name for it. I'm sorry. I can't find a name for this, so we're just gonna call it the red and gray and blue semi-truck set, which retailed for $170. Apparently that price is going up soon, which, as you can see, I mean, for such a small semi-truck, it's kind of weird that it costs so much, but all right, I guess I'll talk about it anyway. The truck features a traditional forward cab design with two front windows that weirdly open up, and then there's, I don't know, some weird thing in there. Not clear. You'd think there'd be like a driver's seat or something. I don't know. And a bunch of weird like pieces that are all on hinges. I don't fully understand it, but the cool thing about this, I suppose, is that it rolls very nicely, and it has some nice drum lacquered silver pieces. And other than that, I don't know. I mean, yeah, a lot of moving pieces. I like the color scheme, I suppose. It's got some cool prints, though. I don't know what those are for. Some lights. Yeah, I don't know. There's not much else to say about this. It's a cool truck. Is it worth $170? Who knows, man. That was all just a joke, of course, although I suppose jokes are supposed to be funny. This is actually the very first ever LEGO partnership with Hasbro, the LEGO Transformers Optimus Prime, which is not a sentence I ever thought that I would be saying, but oh boy, does this set fill me with joy. For those of you who don't know, which is all of you, growing up I was a pretty big fan of Transformers. A lot of the cartoons, I liked the Gen 1 ones, I liked the Bay movies that had been out at the time, and I liked other shows like Transformers Prime and, I don't know, anything else that was available when I was growing up. That said, I never thought, though I wanted it desperately, that there would be a crossover between LEGO and Transformers. Basically my two favorite, like, toy franchises growing up as a child. And yet somehow, it's as though my prayers to the universe have been answered. We have this beautiful creation. Of course, the first question someone might ask is, does it transform? To which the answer is, duh, obviously. And I'll show you what that looks like now. First, we remove this thing. Who knows what that is? We'll figure it out in a minute. Then we set to work. Now, keep in mind, I am a little bit out of practice on the whole Transformers game. So, for one thing, expect several cuts here. And also, yeah, just keep in mind I'm probably doing this slightly wrong, but you know what? I'm excited and happy, and that's all that matters. So you can see arms fold out, then fold out. You can see, hopefully, there's kind of like a connection in there that these fold into, which I don't know if that's been used in other sets before, but I thought it was kind of creative. So these just kind of fold into place. It's not a very strong connection, but it works. This folds up. Cool, cool, cool. Let's get this arm out. Oh boy. As you can see, this set is very tall, and so much so that I'm struggling to even fit it in frame. So you'll just have to make believe that there are some feet down there. I promise they exist, and I promise someday I'll have the space to just like film things, you know? Wouldn't that be cool? I figure it's probably a good idea to give some kind of size comparisons so that you can see what this looks like in scale with other things, because you can look up the dimensions, but I find that always helps. Here's Optimus in scale with another Optimus Prime figure, that being the Silver Knight. This one is a tiny bit closer to the camera, so I can try. There. They're about equidistant from the camera now, so you can see, I mean, he pretty much dwarfs the other one, especially because you can see a lot of the height is coming from the backpack, and also, I mean, several of the parts of this are significantly smaller. Another comparison that I could make would be the recent In Arisham's Shadow set. You can see that this set comes close in height a bit, but it's severely lacking in a lot of the bulk and is just generally significantly more skeletal. You can also see, though, with a minifigure, approximately what you're looking at. You're looking at something big here. This is not minifigure scale Optimus Prime. For a final brief comparison, just because I really, really wanted to, here is the most recent set to basically approximate being a Transformers set, that being Tony Stark's Sicarian Iron Man, which obviously, I mean, this pales in comparison in terms of size, but I loved this set so much because it reminded me of Transformers growing up, and just kind of gave me general vibes. And who knew that this was almost like an omen of what was to come. As you can no doubt tell, this Optimus is based on his Generation 1 cartoon design, and I think they've basically translated the character as perfectly as you possibly can into a Lego model of this size. They get pretty much all of the iconic shapes and colors and everything as perfect as you possibly can, and a transformation sequence that very strongly approximates what that actual figure would have done. Although admittedly, I don't have a Generation 1 Optimus. He does a very good job of looking exactly as he was intended to. A couple of minor nitpicks here. We do have a little bit of an awkward head shape, although just looking from the side. Although admittedly, this is not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be when I saw it in photos. So overall, no serious complaints. I mean, this head design is pretty dang perfect for what you would be hoping to get out of, again, an Optimus Prime of this size. They molded a new piece right here in order to make his iconic mouth guard. I say iconic about everything. To make his mouth guard, and they drum lacquered that in silver, as well as a bunch of pieces down here, here, and I believe that's, oh, and of course on his legs, which you can see here and here. That little turntable that's used to rotate his entire body is probably the weakest design aspect of the set, because unfortunately, like all Lego turntables, that comes off real easy, and so when transforming it, you're going to have to pay attention to whether or not the studs are coming undone. As I showed earlier, you can open up his chest cavity to reveal the Matrix of Leadership from the Transformers movie, or Transformers the movie, and his truck alt mode contains his traditional blaster, which also came with one of the original toys, if I'm not mistaken. That's what the instruction booklet said anyhow. You will note that I am technically a little bit inaccurate in the way that I transform this character, in that I did not remove this piece right here, which is the only piece that you are going to have to remove in order to fully transform him. Although they have shown on the box and have made it such a way that removing this is not absolutely necessary. It's really just kind of a minor nitpick. And I've heard somebody saying that on some of the toys, the original like Transformers toys, you had to do this as well. It's kind of weird to me that they like designed the character that way, like given the fact that, you know, Transformers was literally made to sell toys, but not a big deal. And of course, I mean, it is important to realize, like, yeah, we are looking at basically the culmination of two toy companies cooperating in order to create a toy that was literally based off of a character designed to sell toys. But I do think that, you know, certain aspects of the Transformers franchise and Optimus Prime and everything have kind of transcended that to a lot of people. A lot of the artists behind it have elevated him into a character that excites me so much to see rendered in this like brick form that very few other cartoon characters could ever possibly do. Next up, I think it's important that we take a look at a couple of his accessories. You've already seen this one right here, but there are a few more, and I think that some of them are actually kind of useful. You can see that Optimus's back is a little bit lacking in appearance, right? I mean, it's got a lot of gaps and holes and all other manner of problematic elements. Well, that was basically essential in order to maintain the transformation feature, but they've got you covered. Ha ha ha, get it? They've got you covered. Wow, I did not write that intentionally. As you can see, you can clip on this jetpack, which actually isn't Optimus Prime's. This was Sideswipe's jetpack, and apparently he borrowed it in, I think, episode 3 of the series. I don't particularly care. I think it covers up the back quite nicely. It is pretty bulky. It is way bigger than I was expecting it to be once I finished constructing it. But overall, it covers up the back issues, and it also, again, contains one of these really awesome Autobot symbol prints that kind of bring this whole model together, and is one of the best prints that you're going to get out of this, with the exception of these silver wheels, which are quite pretty and that you get 6 of in this set. Now, maybe this blaster isn't really your speed. Well, that's not really a problem, because you can remove his hand and replace it with Optimus's Energon axe, which again is not an especially iconic aspect of the Transformers franchise, although, I mean, why isn't it? But again, it just gives you an extra layer of customizability, and I think they did a pretty dang good job of rendering the weapon, although admittedly you see anti-studs on the back here, which is a tad unfortunate, but I mean, what are you going to do? For a final accessory, we just get this little tiny Energon cube. Not much to say about this. This is something that was a pretty big deal in the original Gen 1 show. They were constantly trying to fill up Energon cubes. The Decepticons were constantly trying to hijack Earth's various resources in order to fill up Energon cubes. It's kind of become a little bit outdated in modern Transformers lore, but it's nice to see, and it cost very little, I would imagine. Other than that, we have what might be a bit of a disappointing aspect to this set, but honestly, I'm not super upset, and that is this Optimus Prime plaque, which basically gives some stats on him, which, good grief, he's maxed out in all but 2 of them, for which he's missing 2 points, and a quote, "Freedom is the right of all sentient beings," which is a pretty solid Optimus Prime quote, better than some of the ones they could have picked. I was kind of dreading that they were going to pick his "one shall stand, one shall fall" quote, which in my opinion is like the lamest of the lame Optimus Prime quotes, the rest of them being all pretty much adequate. But now that we've got all that out of the way, it's probably a good idea to talk about the actual vehicle mode of this set and take it a little bit more seriously than my unfunny opener to this video. And there you have it again. This is Optimus Prime in his iconic semi-truck mode, again from the Generation 1 cartoon. Obviously, there's no trailer included with this, although, as I showed before, you can take his blaster, which is apparently the only accessory that was included in the original Gen 1 toy, and just fit it right into there, just slots in very nicely, and it's fairly unassuming. There are several places on the model where there are studs or clips or different pieces in order to keep some of this stuff in place. An example being this front kind of bumper and grille area has studs both in its truck mode to keep it in place here, and also on the robot mode, basically up inside of there, that allow you to keep the front piece completely in place so that you don't have to worry about whether or not you're getting it right every time. Some of the parts are a little bit a little bit difficult to kind of fiddle into place. I've done my best here, and I think that I've got it as perfect as it possibly can be. And this is a Lego model, so you probably shouldn't expect the same level of perfect intricacy that you would expect from an actual Hasbro figure. Other than that, I absolutely love the design of this model. It's one of my favorite Lego sets to date, and I just said the same thing about the Jurassic Park set. I love that too, but this appeals to me on a level that I did not think a Lego set was going to be able to appeal to for a very long time. But with that, we should probably talk about some of the cons of this set. Haha, get it? Cons like Decepticons? I'm going to use that same joke in a video in a few days from now. The first problem, I would argue, is the price. This set is $170, and it's rumored to be going up by $10 to $180 United States currency. That's a lot. While it is 1,508 pieces, you don't see a lot of that because a lot of that is intricate parts, and also a lot of that is built into all these different accessories, which means that they're not parts of like the main model. I mean, there are a ton of pieces to make up this blaster. You know, this is not mass that's going into the actual set itself. That said, I wanted to do a little bit of investigating, so I went down to my local Target and took a look at what they're selling Transformers figures for right now, and what I saw astonished me. As it turns out, if you want to buy a little tiny, like, Transformers figure that in robot mode stands maybe about that tall, you're looking at probably $10, which sounds a bit overpriced, but that's not that much. It's not horrible, at least. Then I saw that the current Coronation Starscream figure is going for $50. The Starscream figure is obviously significantly smaller than this, doesn't have the same, Lego branding on it or licensing, and kind of shows how much it probably sucks to be a Transformers collector, because oh my god, if they're all $50, I mean, that's, like, you think that Lego is an expensive hobby, good grief. Even so, I would have liked to see a little bit more included for the price here. Off the top of my head, I think that a minifigure version of Optimus Prime, or even like a micro build, or both, would have been really nice to kind of fill this out, not imagining like a ton of pieces or anything, maybe 1 or 2 new molds in order to make up a figure. I think that'd be really nice so that you could actually put it on a stand, and I don't imagine that it would have been too difficult. Then again, I don't know what the deal was here. I'm not totally sure, but I know that the old Hasbro Creo sets did come with minifigure versions. I say minifigure in air quotes, versions of their characters, and I think that this definitely could have benefited from that a little bit. Other than that, there are a couple of small design issues. Like I said before, it's kind of difficult to, fiddle some of the parts into place without actually like breaking the model. And it's a bit small compared to a lot of your other vehicles. If you went out and bought, say, the Back to the Future DeLorean, which is not a set that I purchased, not a set that I plan on purchasing, this is not going to be in scale with that, right? So even though this is a similar priced set, this semi-truck is not going to be a semi-truck that you can set with your, your James Bond Aston Martin or your, UCS style Ghostbusters car or anything like that. This is basically in its own scale as far as I'm aware. If there are any sets that are in a similar scale to this, I'd appreciate hearing about them, because there's just nothing that I can think of that this could go with in this form. That said, I do think it's aesthetically pleasing. I don't think it needs to go with anything. Oh boy, I've messed it up. There we go. Let's hope that hand doesn't come back to like grab me or something. But yeah, other than that, this is a partnership between LEGO and Hasbro, something I did not ever think was going to happen, and something that opens the door for a whole host of different possibilities. For that reason, I'm going to do a video soon, hopefully talking about some other Transformers characters that I think would translate well to LEGO models, in the hopes that this is not just a one-off, because I would love to see more. And hopefully that video is going to have some kind of like hot takes or whatever. So for the first time on this channel, let me ask you to like and subscribe and all that crap, because that'd be cool. So that then you would see the next video, the one where I'm going to make the same joke that I made in this one that wasn't funny the first time. But with that, I think that those are all of my thoughts. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that there was some information that you gleaned out of it, even if it was just seeing this in scale with other Transformers figures. And I hope you have like a decent day, unless you suck, in which case have a bad day, please.